90 years ago, a man was born. He was born into the role that he would become famous for. Mr. William Shatner turns 90 today. Larry Nemecek and I are going to be chatting about the life and the legacy of one Mr. William Shatner.
On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube for over 550 episodes. This is a Trekzone conversation.
And it is a very warm Trekzone welcome back to Mr. Larry Nemecek. Larry, thanks for a little bit of your time on Shatner's 90th.
It's Shatner's. I love your new intro and all your. I was watching that train go by. That's amazing, Matt. Very impressive, as is 90 years of William Shatner. Wow. And who knew that little role he had in Alexander the Great would propel him to, or The Brothers Karamazov, or The Andersonville Trial, or my favorite, The Barbary Coast with Doug McClure.
TJ Hooker as well.
Yes. Okay. Well, if you like jumping over car hoods, sure.
Well, Shatner, of course,
yeah.
Absolutely. And of course, the role most famous, all joking aside, is Captain Kirk on Star Trek. Of course, that's why you're here as Dr. Trek. But such a legacy that he has built over the time. His acting career, Boston Legal, of course, as well into the 2000s.
I was going to say, yeah. Dr. Boston Legal is in the wings if you want me to bring him in. You can talk about Denny Crane, but okay.
So many roles. Such a wonderful person. I guess you put an asterisk on that maybe for people engaging with him on Twitter, but and he doesn't do podcasts, so we didn't want to drop by Trekzone for his birthday, which is probably fair enough. He's probably out in the cabin in Iowa somewhere.
I'm sure.
Where is he these days?
No,
in Canada, somewhere.
It's interesting how the years go by, and it's a lot like, I don't know, is it just the times we live in, Matt, that the pendulum swings on people as well as, culture trends? And I'm not, he's had some interesting of late. It's amazing that he's on Twitter, but the contrast between, say, him and, George Takei is contrasty on Twitter as it is everywhere else. And that he's a little, and I know he has social media people keeping his channels going for him, but if that's him in the middle of some of these arcane things about culture and getting into little snippets with people. And I know he's PO'd a little bit of the Trek fan base off at times. So it's an interesting life. But I mean, if you're around for 90 years, you're going to have some pendulum swings, I guess, back and forth. Certainly knows his best friend, Leonard Nimoy. He and Leonard Nimoy apparently, sadly, ended up not on his side, apparently, but wound up not talking after they'd famously started off bumpy on the show and then were fine with their favored nation clause, directing and all that. And then maybe the last few years there of Leonard's life not being so close for something on Leonard's part. But anyway, when you're around 90 years, things go around the bend and come back a few times.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think the other thing as well, it's something that my mum is finding as well. As you get older and later in life, you really stop having time for all the little inconveniences and the annoying things, and you start calling out a lot more crap that you see in your life. And obviously, Mr. Shatner, with as big of a life as he has had, he's obviously seen some crap, and he's not taking any more of it. It is fun to watch, I think, sometimes.
It's a sideshow going by if you go there. But there's I've known some people that caught up. I mean, I'll have to say, a couple of times people have gotten caught up in some drama with him, and been stuck between the human of felt affronted, and also the situation of here's a powerful celebrity, affecting, and how are you going to react to that? And I think the more the years have gone by, there's a segment of the population. And as we've gotten savvier with our Twitter and our Instagram and all that, especially Twitter for him, there are people that they say, I don't care who you are. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I react. Here's what I think about that. And I don't care if you're, I don't care if you're the king of Sweden. I don't know where I came up with that one. But anyway, I don't care who you are. You have no right to talk to people that way or to hold a thing. And some of that's just our culture that lives and dies by social media. So it's, it's interesting. But in the old days, the 60s and 70s and 80s, that, the face and the smile that sold Star Trek. I mean, this morning I was watching people talk about Shatner's birthday, and someone, I think it was the Roddenberry Post, said, "Hey, and a happy 90th to the original captain, our original Captain William Shatner." And people were like, I thought Pike was the original captain, and I was like, oh, come on, guys, don't. Yes, we all love Ensign Mount, and we all love Jeffrey Hunter or Sean Kenny, who played him, in the wheelchair. But it's like, okay, Shatner is the face. You have to say it. Shatner's the face that sold the show, even though if the original Pike had been around, Jeffrey Hunter was offered the role to come on. They were going to change everything, but not change that. And it was his choice not to come on. But there's that old debate about, would Star Trek have, maybe sold, but would it have gotten out of the gate and been what it was, either on a network level or on a fan attraction? We're going to revolutionize part of pop culture. Would that have happened if Jeff Hunter had still been in the captain role? Would that chemistry mix have still been there, or would that twinkle in the eye of Shatner's back in the day that sold the show, and go back and forth between romantic lead and action man and all of that, and pull off a joke combination? Would that have made Star Trek what it is today? And even if you're a kid today that says, I can't watch the 60s, the acting and the lighting is too weird. Okay. But you wouldn't have anything else today if it hadn't been for that show. Right. So yeah, but you look at it that way, and yes, Leonard, and yes, Dee, and all the rest of them, but it started off being all about Kirk and Shatner in the center seat. And would we have all this today if it wasn't for Shatner? So there you go. Legacy versus now. What do you do?
Yeah. I think the fact that he has survived through everything, through the culture that it is at the moment, with one wrong step on social media, and that's kind of it, you're done. I think that that William has really carved out this niche for himself where he can pretty much do and say whatever he likes on Twitter, which I think is absolutely fantastic.
Well, one thing, and it's just dawned on me, and I wish I'd had it handy here, but one thing, he's reinvented himself many times. I mean, he'll talk about after the Star Trek boom, and like all of them, he and Leonard were a little better off, but all of them, and Gene included, when Star Trek became this breakthrough new paradigm thing in pop culture and helped get Star Wars financed, right? Okay. The whole thing about fans and all of that was a new thing that Star Trek pioneered, because nothing like it had ever existed before. You could be a fan of a music group or a singer or a rock band or a movie star, but a show, a franchise, and a philosophy like that, that's crazy. There were times in the 70s when he was doing those really bad, Big Bad Mama and Kingdom of the Spiders, and he says, I was living out of a trailer. He had rough days before Star Trek helped him rebuild that. And then, then he had the 80s, TJ Hooker and Rescue 9/11. And then he had another downtime, because I remember when I was editing Communicator in the late 90s, early aughts, and there was a time when Shatner was kind of passé, and now he's the 60s and the 80s, but now it really is over for him. And all of a sudden, we had a cover. It was a 60s shot of him, but I remember the headline cover was William Shatner. Suddenly he's everywhere, because all of a sudden he was doing the Priceline commercials here in the States. Book your travel at a discount thing. And it's like, really? Captain Kirk doing this? And he would get into that, poke fun at himself. And then, he wound up with that bit part on Boston Public that turned into his role on Boston Legal, which is the role that won him Emmys. Okay? It's like Kirk never did that for him. Star Trek never did that. But he won Emmys as Denny Crane, the lawyer, on Boston Public. And he had Renaissance number 2 or number 3, depending on how you're scoring at home. So it's like, but he did it by poking fun of himself. And he'd do these self-parodying things as the years went by. So, a lot the way Leonard did too, right? With the commercials and that music video he did and some of the things they did over the years. But as much as he's rubbed some people the wrong way at times, he's also made fun of himself. And that's really what brought him back from, I don't know, obscurity desert number 2. But I remember that. Suddenly Shatner's everywhere again. And those Priceline commercials were crazy, but he was back out in the public eye again, and then had another renaissance.
Well, Larry, lastly, let's touch on Strange New Worlds. It's officially in production. We got a look at the first 6 or the first 5 new cast members on the show coming up, joining Anson Mount, Rebecca Romajan, and Ethan Peck. Kirk is a lieutenant on the Farragut at this time in the Star Trek canon. Are we going to see him as a lieutenant on the Farragut, or are we going to see him take over the ship from Pike? Where do you sort of think Strange New Worlds is gonna head?
Well, let's let Strange New Worlds be Strange New Worlds. Let's let it be the Pike show, please. Okay, let's.
Yes, absolutely.
Everybody's like already
having asked what I just asked. I think that's right.
I know, and you can't help but do that. Now, my mind is going, and where's Dr. McCoy? Is he out of Starfleet Medical after his divorce? What are we going to find? It's like, and where's Scotty? And Scotty winds up with Shatner. People are saying, like, where's Dr. Boyce? I didn't see Dr. Boyce. Notice in that casting call, unlike the old days, they don't just tromp everybody out and said, and here's Fred Smith as Barney, and here's Barney Smith as Fred. I mean, they're not, it's like, here's the faces and the names. We're not telling you what they're playing. Ha 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 ha. Because it's streaming land and serial land and social media world, and we're going to drag all this out and drip it as much as we can. But there is one, not 20-something male black actor in that group. It's like people are speculating, well, could that be M'Benga really? And is Dr. Boyce retired by now? Which totally would fit canon timeline. We don't know anything about John Hoyt's character that's in the menagerie, in the cage. We don't know anything about that, and he's not part of the conversations. We hear the engineer's name, but we don't hear a doctor name from Enterprise that we glimpsed on Discovery. So that's all open door. So I'm excited for that. I'm not so excited. I wish they would contemporize the old look of the ship a little more, but that ship sailed. I guess, so to speak. So I'm just excited. Yeah, cool. Kirk is out there somewhere. Let's just focus on these folks and give them their due and their time and their adventures and flesh that out. And he can be flitting around out there somewhere. They can tease that the way they tease Spock the first season of Discovery, whatever. But let's not make everything inevitably going to come back to Kirk and Spock. Can we just have everything not eventually come back to the thing that started in 1966? Can we just flesh out the rest of the universe on its own? Because Pike's got this whole end game that we know that he knows, or he knows his end game, and we know that he knows his end game. And it's not like, as viewers, it's like people in the universe. He knows what his fate is. So unless those Telosians are just big liars. So so there's a ticking clock, with this show, and I'm totally up with seeing what comes down the pike.
I see what you did there, Larry. Well, fantastic. It's always fun to check in with you, Dr. Trek. And we're going to do it again real soon as more production happens. We've got Discovery, we've got Strange New Worlds, we've got Lower Decks, Prodigy. What's the other one that I'm forgetting? Picard,
Section 31.
Of course. Section 31 is potential.
On down
All
there.
of these are still happening. So, Dr. Trek, you're going to be coming back to Trekzone. But for today, or for this week at least, it is a very happy birthday to Mr. Shatner, 90 years young. And thanks very much for starting the legacy, I guess.
Thanks a lot. And real quick, it's Michael Westmore's birthday today also.
Now, the question would be, just very quickly, is he more important than Shatner?
Well, we talk about what Shatner's face did for Star Trek. We can certainly talk about what Michael Westmore's faces did for Star Trek. So there you go.
Exactly right.
Starting with Data and Worf and going forward.
Exactly right. Well, it's a topic for another time, but we will check in on that real soon. Larry, thanks so much for your time, and we'll catch you again soon here on Trekzone.
Thank you, Matt. Trek well.